Hi, good evening and welcome once again to the Gildarie Freddie Kissoon show. We also coming to you live on YouTube. You can get it there on the Guyanese Critic page. Wherever you are, whatever it is that you're doing, I hope you're having a wonderful night or a wonderful morning. I know some of you tuning in far out places. We have people from Brazil, Canada, Alaska, all over the place. I can't even count the number of countries. A guy told me he's from Cayenne. He's watching from Cayenne. I want to say good night to the folks on in Cayenne and Florida, New York, New Jersey. Good night to you. As you know, over the last couple of weeks, we've been trying to push the envelope a little, push the boundaries when it comes to talk show. What makes a good talk show? Those are some of the questions that we have to ask. Should we be comfortable by having the same routine thing over and over? Well, this show is not all about that. If you tune in for that kind of thing, wrong show. Freddie Kissoon, Gildarie is not like that. We intend to change things up. We're going to make sure that the politicians doesn't run things all the time in this country. We have so many important things. We have a gentleman in the studio. You should know him. He's a very good cricketer that plays all over the world. Andre Russell. In a very short while, Freddie Kissoon is going to introduce his other name as well. But for me, he's Andre Russell because anybody who's looking at him cannot probably tell the difference between him and Andre Russell. In everything in life that we do, ladies and gentlemen, you have to have balance. If you're having too much work, it's not good. If you're having too much play, it's not good. Balance is important. Mental health is important. Physical wellness is important. Tonight I want to say good night to my co-host Freddie Kissoon. And if you hear me sounding a little nasally, it's because the flu has me by the last couple of days. You will not guess. But I want to say good night to Freddie Kissoon, who's going to do the honors of introducing one of our guests here tonight. The other guest is a little late, caught in the traffic across the river. She might be here in time for the show, and we're hoping that she is. Very wonderful young lady. But this gentleman in the studio here is somebody that we should be celebrating. We don't celebrate our people enough. But enough of me talking. Freddie Kissoon.
Good evening, and I have to warn our guests and warn myself. I hope you don't have COVID, but it doesn't matter. Our guest is vaccinated, and I am very well vaccinated. Let me begin this introduction with two incidents, very strange. I never met our guest. I didn't know who he was. I'm walking my dog on the seawall, and it was coming on to the evening, and I saw this guy. So I said, what is going on here? Well, let me stop there and tell you about a word. Do you know a word named doppelganger? I repeat the word, doppelganger. It's an accepted word in the English language. It is spelled D-O-P-P-L-G-A-N-G-E-R. Doppelganger. A doppelganger is a person, a stranger, who has no genetic relation to another person, but the facial resemblance is almost identical. Someone in Afghanistan went and found the doppelganger of the Canadian Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau. And when you see this guy in Afghanistan and the Canadian Prime Minister, identical facial features. So I was walking my dog on the seawall, and I saw this guy coming, and I know it couldn't be Andre Russell, because once Russell touched down in Guyana, all of Guyana would know that's one of the most famous athletes, sports personality in the world. And so I went up to this guy. I don't know who he was. I never saw him before. I said to him, I would like to contact my editor and for her to put your image and juxtapose it with Andre Russell. You're identical with Andre Russell. Would you give me, would you send a photograph of yourself to Keisha right now on your smartphone? He said, no, I don't want that. I said, who you are, sir? And then he told me what's his name and what's his field. And that was it. That was a few months ago. And I said, Guyana missed and Jamaica missed an opportunity to seeing Andre Russell doppelganger. So last night, I'm with my dog again, and this guy is walking on the seawall. And I'm tempted to stop him. And I said, you know, this Andre Russell thing you should do. But you told me who you are, and you should come on the show. The show has a good audience. And he said, okay. And I said to him, can you bring someone that you consider nationally prominent? And he said, yes, he will bring the powerlifting champion of Guyana, Keisha Abrigo. She is a Ministry of Education official. They have something going on in Lenora, so she's on her way here. So I don't know this evening if I should introduce Paul Musa as Andre Russell doppelganger. But let's cut out the lighter side and say, welcome to one of Guyana's most enduring sports personality, a table tennis champion, but he is known as a certified, trained fitness expert, trained in Arizona in the United States. Paul Musa, it is really a pleasure to have you here. I will slip in sometime and say, Andre, you don't mind.
That's all right. That's all right. We'll have some fun. Not a problem.
I want you to listen to this question. It's a strange question. There is a colleague of there's a colleague of Paul named Keisha. He has a fitness entrepreneurship like Paul. Paul has his own fitness club, perhaps one of the most patronized in Guyana and perhaps one of the oldest in Thomas Street. I remember teaching at UG Passing there, and there's no place to park because the patrons of Exodus Gym, owned by Paul Musa, took up the hall of Thomas Street Kitty. Keisha, I see in the national park, walking barefoot. And he has a fitness gym next to where I live, Giffland Mall. And Keisha told me that it is best to exercise walking barefoot. And I said, I will put that question to one of Guyana's leading fitness expert. Did you hear the question, Paul?
Yes, I thank you for that question. Is it better to do your exercise barefoot? I would like to say that man, or any interaction with nature is usually a good one. For many, it is taught many years in olden medicine that when there's any problem or ailment with the human, one needs to earth themselves, make actual connection with the earth. So walking barefoot has been something in terms of, it has been attributed to why the slaves were so strong, the indigenous people are so strong. They're some of the people that live in the hills and far off places cut off from society, and part of their strength and endurance and ability to do amazing things are attributed to the fact that they earth themselves. Actually, I know many stories of people who were healed from foot pain and stuff by actually earthing themselves, so making that interaction with the earth. So there's enough scientific evidence to show, there's enough history to show that is a good practice. So I wouldn't debunk it. It's actually scientifically proven. So yeah.
I think we have to tell our viewers, Miss Abrigo, the powerlifting champion, will be taking questions on Paul Musa. Now, I'm appealing to you to keep your questions in the area of powerlifting, sports, and fitness.
Health and wellness, yeah.
Health and wellness. Mr. Musa has been a table tennis champion for years, has competed in fitness programs in the Caribbean, and is a fitness and health official. Please call in and put your questions to him in that area. You know, Guyanese sometimes can be overbearing. Next thing you know, somebody ring and there's a question on sociology, engineering, politics. Please pick up the phone and call Paul, and when Keisha is here, you can talk to her. She is traveling now to be in the studio. So, Leonard?
Yeah, well, thank you very much, dear Freddie. I'm interested, I'm thinking here to myself. So we did have a conversation with Paul in the beginning, and he said a couple of things that really intrigued me. But one of the things that struck me tonight, that we don't do enough to celebrate our people, our heroes, the ladies and the gentlemen who represent our country. But you could look, I don't think we're doing enough.
Yeah.
You could look across the world and people look at the lives of Messi, Lionel Messi, and all the stars, Mbappe and all of them, and they look at the way that they spend money and what the cars they drive, and Lewis Hamilton and so on. We have right within here. I listened to what you said, Paul, that you were one of the top CrossFit champs within the Caribbean. That means this man could do anything. He could power lift, he could swim, maybe. I think you do that. You could run, you could probably climb walls. I don't know.
Yes, yeah.
It's a little Spider-Man.
It's part of CrossFit, yeah.
How come we not reading these things a little more in our newspapers? How come we not seeing special persons being made of these people? How come we not seeing awards being given for people who represent us?
You never got a national award?
No, I've never.
And he's been in it. If you tell me that he has, and he's been representing.
How long you been Ghana table tennis champion?
So I was never the national champion. I won national tournaments. To be crowned national champion is that one individual title that you must have. I was silver medalist at the national championship. However, I won many other senior tournaments, and I must say, so I would have won the Independence, Mashramani, and various senior tournaments, but I was never lucky enough to win the national championship. For most of the years I played, the great Sidney Kristoff was the reigning national champion. He won that tournament, but I was part of the national teams. I was a national player for a long time, I won many national tournaments, but not the national championship.
Well, here was the thing. The point I'm trying to make is this. It's very, very simple. You cannot look at an individual performance and say this is nature or this is the full aspect of somebody's contribution. You'd have to look at it across a wide whole area, and you'd have to look at it over a number of years, I presume.
Yeah.
So if you look at that, then the question is, when you look at some of the people gracing the cultural center stages, whenever there's a national award, wherever they hold the national awards, I wonder what the heck did they do to get a national. And you and I had a discussion on this. Freddie Kissoon, it baffles the mind some of the things that people
Paul, what awards, what have you represented Guyana in, how often, and what have you won?
So table tennis, I was a representative of Ghana from 1999 all the way to 2013. I would have traveled over four continents.
Representing Guyana?
Representing Guyana. Went as far as Iran, all over the U.S., the English-speaking Caribbean, Central America. Table tennis, luckily, table tennis is a sport that got lots of exposure. So we did travel and we did play. I remember the Spinmania USA 2002. That was a major tournament in the US. I was actually a bronze medalist at that tournament. So at a time when Guyana was very low in the world ranking, I was still there doing reasonably well. I was considered as very talented as a 17, 18, 19-year-old, which kind of brings me to a point, a sore point, that at the end of my career, I was still termed talented, and I would have seen many players that started around the same time, about 2000, 1999, that from different countries like Dominican Republic and whatever. In 10 years, they would have become a professional and achieved a high level. And I had to stop. I stopped playing because after a while I realized that
money.
Exactly. And the only way, with the ambition I had of being like, say, a world champion, it was not possible if I was not a professional. So my appeal right now, my appeal would be to those who are in charge of sport, that to understand that for our players, we're expecting professional results from amateurs. That is the first problem with sports in Guyana. As long as there's no amateur champion in any sport in the world. That's his job. That's what he is. He's not a policeman that plays table tennis. Exactly. He's not a policeman playing table tennis, or a sports writer that dabbles in running. It has to be your 8-hour job, and it's time we start creating leagues and stop coming and say sports is just a great way to keep kids off the street. As a matter of fact, sports is the only business that has never gone into recession. Never. So it's a business, and athletes are professionals. It's a way of gainfully employing people. It's a way of contributing to the economy. Some of the richest economies in the world rely on sports. Germany, Spain, Italy, France. These countries generate massive revenue. India generate massive revenue through involvement in sports. So this time we have this short-handed view of sports being recreation, because at the end of the day we will continue to get recreational results.
Ladies and gentlemen, you have to announce the phone.
Are you paying attention? This is
phone number.
What should be striking you there is that here you have a gentleman that is involved with sports and is so very eloquent. And let me tell you this, I think you have a way with words as well. And with his, you think you should start coming and maybe help Freddie to host this program here.
You're welcome, Paul. No, just call me and say, we know you're not, we've had sports people here, and if I'd known you before, we would have invited you. And you have now a promise that if we have sports personality here, please come in and join if you're available.
I would.
Gildarie and I will take about it. Could we please announce the number? I hope it's on the
Yeah. Well, we're going to go there. But let me leave the start with you, ladies and gentlemen out there who are paying attention. Paul said something that is so profound. He said, you start dying, and correct me if I'm wrong, you start dying after 35. Your body just starts, your organs start degenerating. There's very little that you could do. It is a process of life. But, there's a but. There's a couple things that you could do to slow that. And he has some answers. 231, we're going to give you those numbers now. 231-2982. Could our technical folks there
please put that number on the screen. If you're hearing me, Nigel, please put those numbers on the screen.
Call Paul. He's going to answer some questions. Let's talk about health. What could you do? What kind of exercises do you need to do? If you're overweight, if you have issues, if you have chronic diseases, what are some of the things you could do? What you call
non-communicable diseases.
Yeah, you could. There's a couple of things that you could do to improve your life. You could get rid of diabetes, a whole bunch of stuff. So let's make sure that we ask the kind of question, because he's been doing it for years, and he understands and he's seen the results of exercising, of stretches, of simple things that you could do to change your life, to maybe lose some weight there. 231-2982. Let's hear those calls coming through. In the meantime, Freddie, you could probably talk while we get our people.
Kes Ricard told me that he don't want to be described as a fitness expert. He is a strike and conditioning expert or in the area of fitness. I don't understand. This is, of course, new to me. I know you have wicketkeeper. I know you have bowler in football, you have midfielder, striker. Yeah. So in fitness, he said he is strike and conditioning expert. You general, or you have a particular area?
I am certified in, what I do generally is anything I try to do, I try to gain as much knowledge as I can. That's the one thing I can control. So I'm into fitness. So I have some certifications as a strength and conditioning. I have that certification. I am conditioned in CrossFit as well. I'm certified in that area, which covers a wide array of everything, because CrossFit takes in cardiorespiratory conditioning, it takes in calisthenics, which is the use of the body, it takes in weightlifting. So that is more all round in terms of that. And also by the National Academy of Sports Medicine, I'm personal training. So that takes over the from weight loss to weight gain to bodybuilding. So I consider myself, as I say, a lifestyle advocate. To get results at exercise, you have to take the whole life into consideration. And then if we look at physical wellness, there are four main components. There's rest, there's water, there's nutrition, and then there's exercise or physical activity. Those four things must go in tandem. And I like to describe exercise as the cog in that specific wheel. For me to get results at exercise, I must eat the right way. And my eating must go in line with my goals. For my goal could be to gain weight, yours could be to lose weight. So the way we eat will vary based on our differing goals. You must have enough rest to get results from exercise. For the body makes any adjustment during sleep or rest. So if my rest is affected, then I would not get the results from exercise, and vice versa. And we all know the body consists of over 70% water. So water is important for everything from brain function to neuromuscular activity. Everything is moderated by levels of water in your body. So they all go hand in hand. So, and of course, the other area is the mental aspect. But the mind cannot be separated from the body. If I am in a good place of my health, physically, I can guarantee I'm in a better place mentally, and vice versa. So when you see people who are overweight and out of shape, most time that's just a physical manifestation or a symptom of a deeper psychological / emotional issue. Because more times than not, what you find is that whatever vice that person is into, whether it is eating sugars, whether it is alcohol abuse, that is contributing to them remaining in that overweight or obese condition, is generally, as I said, it's just a coping mechanism for whatever emotional or psychological trauma or stressful situation that they're dealing with. So many times, yes, I can work out, I can exercise, but if we don't deal with the cause of that, then we wouldn't get the results we want from the exercise. I might leave you lost. There's one example, one of the best examples I had as a trainer. I trained one guy for like 4 years. He had a decent body. However, he had a little belly. So he had some good muscles, but he had a tummy. And I was like, bro, what was one bad thing? Ate well. Trust me. Steamed greens, just enough carbs. He portioned his meals well. He weighed them, he measured them. He was great. And only thing he had wrong was that he used to drink beers. Every afternoon. He drank beers with the boys. And I'm like, bro, why can't you stop the beers? And it took him about 2 years after we developed a relationship. And then he confided in me, like, his marriage was so bad that he preferred to stay with the guys and drink beers every afternoon than to go home.
Yeah, but
you know what I mean? So
the
good.
beers.
Yes. So, but you would think that the beers is the beers is not the problem. The beers was the symptom of the problem.
Right.
The problem was that he needed an intervention in his marriage.
Right.
You know what I mean? And because there was that, we weren't getting the full results in the exercise. So that's what I mean. The mind and body cannot be separated. Right. We got to fix it on both fronts. However, I've also seen many people who would have went through bad situations, exercise, changed their body and their outlook, and then their confidence and the belief that they have in themselves start to spill over to their lives.
Paul, you told me sometime in the beginning, and guys, 231-2982, I think it is.
Call it.
I'm not sure if it's working, but it tell me that it's working. But you guys call
Is it ringing? We better call it to see if it's working.
I don't know. Yeah, the guy set it up. But 231-2982, call those numbers, and you could also get my WhatsApp. You could call that, and I think it's there 637-1071. Send us the message. We could ask Paul tonight. I understand that Paul said that he's considered one of the fittest men in the air. Tell us a little bit of that. How do you get to be described as that?
Well, what we do have since the year 2015, there would have been
muscle.
there would have been a CrossFit competition.
What is CrossFit?
CrossFit. Good. It is described simply as varied functional movements done at a high intensity. So it's a system where the exercises are varied, and we choose the functional exercises: the push, the pull, the running, the jumping, and not just the exercises that are there for aesthetics. And done at a high intensity mean that this is brought on by the clock. The clock is always involved in CrossFit. I can lift 100 pounds for 10 reps, and then maybe I can run 1 mile, and then do that on repeat. That doesn't sound. We can do it 3 times. It doesn't sound very hard until I tell you only have 25 minutes to do it.
Right.
That's CrossFit right there. So the intensity is added by the pressure of the clock. So it's pretty much fastest win, slowest lose. So the challenges are varied. You don't know what it is for you to be considered fit as well. There must be that adaptation. So you train for the known and the unknown. So just as you mentioned, I've got to be versed at push-ups, pull-ups, muscle-ups, running, jumping, swimming, riding, lifting, clean, jerk, push, pull. So you've got to be versed at everything. So we've had this kind of competition going from since 2015, and I would have been one of the top competitors pretty much in almost every edition of the CrossFit Games. And the last one that was held, last major CrossFit Games, in the year 2020, it was the CARES Caribbean CrossFit Championship. I placed overall, I placed 6th, and I was the vice champion in the over 35 category. So imagine I'm over 35 and I'm still in the top 10, and that's the Caribbean Games. And so it is supposed to be held, due to COVID, there was a little break, so there wasn't 2021, and there was not a major championship in 2022, but come 2023, the organizers already told me that we got to get ready for March again.
Interesting. At 39, one of the fittest men in the look at him, Andrew Russell. Well, it's not Andrew Russell.
You think you're fitter than Andre?
I would think I would beat him in a competition. I would beat him in a competition.
Guys.
I want to ask you a question, because obviously this would be one of the things that is going to concern men who are a little older. What is the connection between exercise, physical wellness, and erectile dysfunction?
Oh, beautiful. Thank you for that question.
Good.
All right. So, all we need for as a male.
No, but before that, I think the question should ask: have you found that many men over 40 has a problem or have a problem?
So I'm getting to it, to the answer.
Okay.
So I'm just going to give the straight science. I like to educate. I like to share facts. Yeah. All a male needs for sexual performance are 2 main things, 2 main factors. He needs a good flow of testosterone, that's the hormone that makes us male, and he needs a healthy heart. That's all he needs for great blood flow. So here's how it happens. A guy is his heart is accelerated, his breathing is accelerated before he's involved in physical activity. Now, if he's not fit enough, right, his breathing is elevated, there's a little bit of pressure on his, what we call a cardiorespiratory system, the body will do what we call a shock response. For the human being is meant to survive. Anything, the main aim of the body is to survive. What the shock response will be. Just like when you're in an accident and say you're losing some blood, the body will retract blood from your extremities or everything that would be deemed unnecessary at that time and redirect blood to your brain, heart, and lungs to ensure that you are alive, your vital organs, we call them. So the same shock response happens if one is not healthy enough for sex, because you're at that point in time, after your breathing is elevated and your heart becomes under some pressure, the body will then retract that blood from your extremities, or unnecessary organ. At that point in time, for survival, your penis would not be deemed an important organ for survival. So you then lose that blood flow, and boom, that's where you have lack of performance right there. And all that meant was just that all you needed to do was to improve your cardiorespiratory function by what we refer to in layman's terms as cardio, a little bit of walking, as my boy Freddie here does. So cardio can range from mild walking all the way to intense sprinting and jogging and playing basketball. So you just need to do exercise at least, and this is the statistic, this is the number one should strive for health and wellness, at least 150 minutes per week. That can be translated into 30 minutes, 5 days per week, or as we say, 3-hour sessions. And that can get your heart healthy enough to avoid heart disease and also to improve that sexual performance. For when you want your body to be accustomed or be comfortable with elevated heart rate and perform with elevated breathing. That's so you want that. Also, when we talk about the testosterone factor, there's some exercises, all compound exercises. That is exercises that involve more than one joint, a multi-joint movement, like the squat, like the shoulder press, the clean and jerk. These big major movements are known for stimulating the growth, stimulating testosterone. So that's why they got some, like if you check some instructionals in terms of like sex warm-ups, they would have squats. So a guy, before he engages in sexual activity, he could do some warm-up squats, he can do some push-ups. For these are all compound exercises that can stimulate that testosterone. So exercise, my friend, is the answer to erectile dysfunction, because as I said, you need two things: a good testosterone flow and a healthy heart, and both can be achieved through exercise.
231-298. Freddie, you have a question?
Yeah, I want to. That phone is working.
I'm not sure. 231-298.
Well, why don't we call it and see? Because we're really trying to get through.
Yeah, we can give it a test. 231. What's the number?
231.
In the meantime, we have
231.
2982. In the meantime, we have a question for you, Paul. And the question is, what are some of the bad foods that should be avoided? Anybody, as you get to a particular age.
That phone is not working.
Yeah, there's an incoming call.
Oh, okay, yeah. It's
think
ringing.
something is
That's
wrong.
you. But it's not ringing, so anyway.
That's the point. It's not ringing.
Yeah. Oh, so yeah, we're
It's not ringing.
Freddie, come up here. Let's
Yeah.
so,
No, but the guy may want to answer people's questions.
What are
That's not
what
ringing.
is solid?
good? What are bad foods?
So what are some of the, here's a question to you. What are some of the bad foods that you should be avoiding over 35?
Over 35 bad foods. As I did mention, I don't like to demonize anything. For when I teach nutrition, your diet must match your lifestyle.
Uh-huh.
Your diet must match your lifestyle and your specific goals. Because traditionally, I'm explaining why I reserve my judgment on some foods. One might demonize salt. However, say for from my lifestyle. I do CrossFit. I work out at a high intensity, and I sweat a lot. Sodium is lost in sweat. When my salt content in my diet is not up, I will suffer cramps. Everyone who knows me know that one of the things that I punish with in the CrossFit Games is getting cramps, because sodium is needed for muscle activity. The contractile fibers work with you when you have sodium. When you have a depletion of sodium, then the muscles contract and they can't relax anymore. So they're left in a contracted state. So for a person like me who is heavily active and sweats a lot, I may need elevated salt content as opposed to another person who has a more sedentary job. He's an accountant that leaves his house and goes and sits all day in front of some papers and a computer, and he's not sweating anyway. He sits in his AC like the studio. Then he would do well to reduce his salt content in his diet, because he's not sweating, he's not losing it anywhere. And then with elevated salt content, then that could start to affect his blood pressure and stuff like that. So again, but generally, if I was to advise, I would say watch your sodium content in your food. Sugar. Sugar is a big one. Because most people would think that, okay, you get fat from eating fats mainly. One of the biggest culprits in getting people fat are actually it's sugar. For excess sugar, when your diet has excess sugar, the body stores it as fat. And most of the sugar that we sweeten our tea with, the body can't use. You have an amount of sugar that your body will need per day, and as long as you exceed that, the rest will be stored by the human body. So avoid a sugary diet. Try to get your sugar from natural sources. Try to get it from fruits. If you must, use honey. That's one basic advice. So I would say cut down on some sugar. I would say cut down on the big saturated fats and extra oil. So Guyanese, culturally, we have one big problem. We fry everything.
Yeah.
So everything gotta be swimming in oil. So we stew in from the greens that's supposed to be steamed and have a crunch. We there stewing on the boros, stew the melange, stew the cabbage. You understand? I get a little Creole now. We stew everything down, and we fry it down till it has lost much of its nutritional value. And and also in that process, we added that unnecessary oil to the system. So I would say avoid the deep fried chicken and frying everything. So use non-oil based methods of cooking as much as you can, especially after the age of 35. For your body is working with what we call metabolic deceleration, and that is natural for everyone above the age of 30, that our body is not functioning and breaking down and oxidizing food as fast as it should. Most of our metabolic activity is slowing down. As I said, we are subject to metabolic deceleration after age 30. So as opposed to that's why everybody will find it, hey, when you're young, you're eating everything and you ain't getting fat, but as soon as you pass 30, you just got to smile at some fried chicken, and then you get fat. As well as maybe the third thing, I will leave a tip tonight. Gluten. People believe in white flour, it's garbage. White flour. So the whole lot of bread that we believe in. If you must, try some whole wheat, like real whole wheat bread, if you must. But avoid white flour. It's your enemy. Gluten is the enemy. It for most women, it bloats them. So their tummy, and women are very sensitive about their tummy. That is a major person. Some may disagree with me on this one. There's some schools of thought that believe that lactose or milk or the active ingredient in milk, cow's milk or animal milk, is bad. I am one such that believes such, that it is terrible. That milk, funny enough, as much as we've been taught that, oh, milk does the body good, I would say for the calcium that it offers, when I've weighed it pros and cons, it offers some calcium, but with it comes the bad effect. Let me enlighten you. When you're about to take an antibiotic, what is the first thing they'll tell you not to use?
Milk.
Because
Dairy products,
exactly, it adds mucus to the human body. It adds more inflammation to whatever inflammatory condition that you already have. So this is so because think about it, and I'll ask the question to the viewers out there: which other species in the animal kingdom uses milk from another species? Dogs use dog milk, cows use cow milk, goats use goat milk, and us human beings are trying to get milk from cows and goats. Makes no sense.
Coconut milk would be good then?
Perfect.
Not just use common dogs.
Good.
Common.
I also ask, which other species on the planet the adult uses milk? Because milk, my friend, is a source of food for a gestational species. It was in its formative stage, So
milk is bad. Is basically bad.
Bad for adults.
Right.
Adults. Yeah, because the mother gets milk, and that supports life up to a certain age.
Do you know the vet told me that?
Yeah. I believe.
My vet told me that after you stop being a baby, you should not use milk.
Exactly.
Now he's saying that, but what I think more than the medical doctor, people like the fitness experts should be sought after for advice about joggers, about running shoes.
Oh.
Is that expensive a Jordan worth it? What it has that you should pay so much money for? I mean, I know people just psychologically feel they're important. That's a whole area of psychology I don't want to get into. Why people buy designer clothes, that's a psychological explanation. That's an explanation.
Let me stop you right there, Freddie. So, in every sport has specific sportswear that can aid that specific activity. For example, Eliud Kipchoge ran and he broke the 2-hour barrier in the marathon in a special Nike Fly shoes that is thought to give much more recoil from every strike. And the shoe is still yet to be legalized by the IAAF because it is said to offer assistance. When I played table tennis, we had standard table tennis sneakers that were meant for indoors, that offered the ankle support and offered the stick on the indoor surface because it was meant for indoor sport play. Similarly, at Air Jordan, when it comes to the sport of basketball, it offers a very, very high level of shock absorbency for the guys jumping up and down. And so it is made for that. Like even in CrossFit, there are sneakers for lifting, like a power lifter. If I want to lift, I will have a sneaker that has a hard surface and that can support me being balanced and flat. I can't lift, let's just say I can't lift my maximum squat in a joggers. It's too unstable because the jogger was meant to absorb shock when I move, but when I want to lift something heavy, I then need a sneaker that offers stability. So the goal varies, hence the equipment vary. So even let's say in the sport of powerlifting, I have different shoes. I have my squat shoe that's very hard and stable, and then when I move on to the deadlift, I might have one that's flatter. Because the squat shoe would have an elevated heel. There's Keisha calling. Would have an elevated heel. I hope she is. would have an elevated heel helping me to squat, and then one would be flatter to help me to deadlift. You know, and when I'm running in CrossFit, I'll have one that has more cushion towards the midfoot to help me to strike that way. So in sports, there are sport-specific shoes that can help your performance. That is just a fact, and that's why, like, for Air Jordan, for the sportsman, it is worth its money. But for me to walk around, it's a waste. It's a waste of money. For me to just run around in a Jordan, I don't play basketball.
Here's a question for you, Paul. Many men who are working, or many men who or many persons, in fact, and I'm just paraphrasing what the person is really trying to say. Some people believe they don't have enough time to exercise because they're working hard. Some people think that it's too expensive to exercise because the budget does not allow it. They barely could struggle to think. What advice could you give to them? Let's talk about little, but simple things you could do at home. And if you think it's expensive to exercise, what are some of the things that you could do right at home? So I think two ways we can look at it.
One person once said, if you think knowledge is expensive, try ignorance.
Right. But surely,
similarly, I would say, if you think...
Not if you think...
hear me out. If you think exercise is expensive, try the doctor bill if you don't.
Like that.
You understand? Quickly, off the top of my head, the information age, we live in the information age. There are so many 8-minute, 10-minute workouts out there online that can give you a great workout in 8 to 10 minutes. As a matter of fact, that's one of the things that the CrossFit is good for. The intensity. We try to reduce the rest time and get more work done in a short space of time. So what would I say? You don't have to come out your room to build an exercise program. I could simply say, here, what I'm gonna do: squats. If I can't squat, I sit down, I get up. This is a squat. So I also believe when it comes to workout, we have to start at your current fitness level. So if you're a guy, you're a couch potato, I would say let's start with couch potato squats. Let's sit down, get up 10 times. Good. Sit down, get up. And then we could do some basic push-ups. If you can't push your whole body up, go against the wall, just push in, out. So we develop that upper body. So the squats were for my lower body. Then I start to develop my upper body with some push-ups. Then I then lie on the ground or back on my bed, hook my foot through my bed head, and I start doing some basic crunches. So now I'm working my full body. I'm working some squats. I'm working my upper body, strength and endurance, and then I'm working my core, which, mind you, I just dropped that in right there. They are saying that say weak abs, weak back. Lots of men are suffering from back pain. It's because the abdominal muscles are not strong enough to support them. So I can build on that program. So I can start with maybe 2 sets for today. 2 sets of 10. Sit down, get down, sit down, get up. The push-ups against the wall. Then after that, I can maybe move on to 3 sets of 10. Boom, I can start a timer in 10 minutes. Boom, 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 boom. After a while, I'll probably get strong enough that I don't need the chair anymore, where I start to squat without the chair. Then after a while, I can start bringing down, I can start come off the wall, I can do the push-ups against the chair, till eventually, progressively, I can get to the floor. So, that way you can build a program in about 10 minutes. Also, another thing, I've given lots of people a tool, so one day you can do that, and another tool I've given people, 10 minutes. Walk as far as you can, or jog as far as you can in 10 minutes. Let's say 15. I'll use 15. Walk as far as you can in about 8 minutes, and then take the return back. Take the return. I'm sorry for being redundant. Take the return to your home. So in 15 minutes, you're guaranteed...
It's a gradual process.
Good. You're guaranteed at any walking pace to cover a mile in about 15 minutes. Right? I'll start. And over time, I walk faster. So where I stop in 8 minutes will be farther, and I'll get back. Then I start to jog. Where I stop in 8 minutes will be farther. After a while, I could probably be jogging the whole distance. And after a while, you can be running 2 miles comfortably, because you absolutely can't do it at the start. It started by walking 8 minutes from your house and walking back. Walking 8 minutes from your house and walking back. Then you start to maybe run a lantern post, walk 3. Run 1 lantern post, walk 3. Then you run 1 lantern post, walk 2. And progressively, you end up building a program that is 15 minutes long on your cardio day, and build another program that's 10 minutes long on your non-cardio day. Just like that. 10 to 15 minutes of workout, and eventually it can grow. I always say, and this is one of the things I don't want anybody to miss, how you build the human body is by a principle called progressive overload. The anecdote is this, and this anecdote is not a real story, but it teaches a lesson. They say a man can carry a cow the length of his field. His field is half mile long. As astronomical as that feat is, he did this every day since the cow was a calf. So, since this was a calf, how much growing does a cow grow in a day? Well, however, as much growing as the cow did in a day, so did his strength and ability to carry it. So, yes, he didn't start there. He started when it was a calf. And that is the concept of how we train. So, we set the goal. So, I live by the mantra of setting goals, not limits. So, for all my people there over 35, don't let us set limits on ourselves. Let's just set goals. So you tell me what your goal is, and I'll show you progressively from where you are to how do we get there. You understand? So let the person start from where they are. If it's just sitting down, getting up out of the chair, if it's just doing some push-ups off the wall, and eventually we can get to a place where you're doing some pull-ups from the roof. You understand? You're doing some squats and squat jumps. You're putting some weights on your back. You understand? So you can move from where you are to being very fit.
Freddie,
Well, listen, yeah.
this very riveting stuff, huh?
This is a very interesting question. I read as a joke, but I think it has relevance for the experts like you. I read as a joke, somebody said that those people, because of every day for 20, 25, 30 years, they work riding bicycle to work and riding back. Should they be exceedingly fit people? Is that a scientific fact? Is that a fitness fact?
Yeah, there's some correlation to lifestyle being more physical. So physical activity adds. Remember we did talk about the 4 things that contributes? Physical activity adds. Because one of the problem in terms of the whole world getting fat is not just the poor food choices, but our sedentary lifestyles. So if you had a lifestyle out of necessity that required you to ride miles, trust me, you're better off than the guy who
Just hops in the car.
Good, exactly. Gets out of his bed, goes onto his sofa, then into his car, then into his office chair, then back into his car, then to a bar chair, and then home in his sofa, and then onto his bed. You see the problem? That is our problem. So, the people who live the longest, and there are a couple of parts of the world, Loma Linda University, there's a couple of places in China, and so where through necessity they live in the mountains. Through necessity they have to walk. There's no bus, no train, no anything there, and those people are healthier or live longer than those in more urban areas. So there is some correlation to Those people who, out of necessity, have to ride or walk or run long distances than us who live in a more urbanized society. Can we move from a chair to a chair, Freddie?
Well, the obvious question, Paul, that will have to come out. You have a gym. You have been working with people, maybe as a personal trainer.
Yeah.
You've been doing your thing. How healthy is Guyana compared to, let's say, the Caribbean? Let's look at the Caribbean. Could you hazard a guess? Do you have any knowledge? What would you say?
Yeah, I would have done some work in terms of assessing, and in terms of chronic illness and disease. I would have been exposed to some statistics of the late. Let's just say Guyana 15 years ago, 15 years ago, was a far more healthy place than it is now.
And the reason would be because we have too many fast food places.
The proliferation.
People cooking less.
Exactly. So those are all factors. So 15 years ago, let's say when I was a kid, you barely had a little demi-cold chicken in the rough. No, you barely had chicken. That was just one option. You know what I mean? And you know, then it came the KFC, it came the Popeyes, it came everything, and we adopted a North American style of eating. We gave away our English way of eating, which, mind you, is the more healthier way. When we study the circadian rhythm of the body, the healthier way was actually eating your largest meal at lunchtime and not dinner. The North American culture is eating your heaviest meal for dinner. They have a dinner culture, which is a major contributor to America being the fattest country on the planet, and we chose to adopt their lifestyle. The circadian rhythm of the body, just let me touch on it for a little bit. It has 3 phases. It's your resting phase that goes between 8 o'clock at night to 4 in the morning. There's your excretory phase, which goes from 4 in the morning to about 12 in the day, and between that 12 to 8 window is your peak window for nutrition. So again, your heaviest meal that's why your heaviest meal is lunch, or should be lunch, right around that 1 o'clock period. Your body is primed to accept nutrition and oxidize the food at a faster rate than when you always get advice to don't eat heavy at night. It is because of that circadian rhythm that I'm talking about. Your body goes into its resting phase after 8. And that's general, because, true lifestyle, you can develop some exceptions. But generally, your body goes into its resting phase. It reduces activities like digestion. So your food will not be digested as quickly, as easily, and as properly as if you ate it at 12 or 1 or 2 or 3 in the afternoon. So one of the things we strayed away from is actual eating our heaviest meal at lunch. We totally adopted a hangout culture and an eat late culture.
One of the things I want to ask a fitness guy like you, please tell me if it's not relevant. I cannot understand why an unpolluted country like Guyana, if you look at China, you see people normally go to work with mask on. There's heavy pollution.
Even
I was educated in a city called Hamilton in Canada, city next to Toronto, and they had a very important steel factory there. And Hamilton was a polluted city. Why would, in a country with so healthy, with fresh air, the Threes is an agricultural country, why do people drive with the AC on? Isn't that like throwing
Are you asking him why people drive with AC on in this country?
Yes, I'm asking him that.
Are you serious?
Yes, I'm asking him that.
You know how hot this country is? You sit down in it, you don't live on these.
No, wait a minute. You see people when the weather is hot. When is the weather hot in this country? The weather is not hot at 8 o'clock in the morning. I am telling you now from this morning. I'm telling you now, you don't seem to understand the psychological.
Don't be hot at 8 o'clock.
This country is hot at 8 o'clock.
Must
It's
ask the people who sit down in the minibus in this bank?
No, I'm telling you. You get up in the morning and look at the cars going to work at 7 a.m. And you tell me if that weather at 7 a.m. warrants AC. You tell me, you know when the weather is hot, maybe you're living in another country. I'm older than you and I lived in this country all my life. You cannot compare the weather at 2 o'clock in the afternoon to 7 o'clock in the morning. That's
That
is climatic nonsense.
in the morning,
That's climatic nonsense. You know why it's nonsense? The sun doesn't get as hot 7 in the morning as it gets 2 o'clock. No, that is common sense. If you don't believe that, maybe he can come in here and
8 o'clock in the morning is extremely hot in these bank, I can tell you that.
No, but I live in another
dropped
country.
my daughter to
So
school.
you believe people, you believe at 8. So if it's hot at 8
If I want to talk about the AC at 6 o'clock in the
No,
morning.
if it's hot at 8, if it's hot at 8 o'clock, it's like Saudi Arabian weather at 2 p.m. and I'm coming to that. When they leave their home at 6 a.m., you're driving home after this program. People have their windows down.
You see several things you're just talking there, and you're not logical in what you're saying.
Tell me what I'm not logical. Tell me what I'm not
Start off at
logical.
8 o'clock, then you go to 7 o'clock.
I'm saying the 8
I'm
o'clock.
telling you, 8 o'clock in the morning, if you're down these bank road, especially with the congestion that's happening there, and you have AC in the car and you could activate it, please activate it.
Why?
It's extremely hot.
I am saying no. I am saying 8 o'clock in this country, the weather is not hot. It's a hot country. It's not a cold country. But it's not like 2 o'clock in the afternoon. It's not scientifically
I'm going to
possible.
come back to this, unfortunately.
That is not scientifically possible.
You have a couple of advice to give to the people as we say goodbye.
Good. Good. So
Thank you very much.
quickly.
Why do people drive the AC all the time?
Your point is well made. Your point is well made. I would try to reinforce the point that Mr. Kissoon is getting at. Mind the semantics of the argument. That one should try as much as possible to get the fresh air that is available in this country. For I too would have been to.
AC is bad, you know that.
I too would have been to countries that are very polluted, and you do not have the luxury of stepping outside without a mask. You're in Delhi, India. You're in certain parts of India. The dust pollution is so much. All windows of all vehicles have got to be turned up. Guyana, we are fortunate to have the northeast trade winds that cool us. We're lucky to have these trees, and we're lucky to have fresh air. Try to get fresh air as much as possible. Before it gets polluted, get out early in the morning, get some fresh air. Even after it dies down, the air is fresh right now. There's some people that exercise at night. You might want to think about that as well. But in terms of one advice, if anyone was to ask me one advice and gave me 1 minute to speak, I would let you know that any goal in life you achieve, you endeavor to, you want to get, see it as a process. Any exercise goal is a process, my friend. Do not expect results overnight. So you set the goal, and then as long as you see it as the process, you will then just take it step by step, and you will achieve it. For far too many times, people come to a gym or go to an exercise program expecting immediate results as if it were a surgery. If you had your tummy this high, it took about 10 years to get there. It will not go down in 2 weeks. But but you follow the process and follow the steps of eating right, resting well, drinking enough water, and doing the right amount of exercise consistently over a period of time, you will get to whatever goal you have. So any goal you have, it's a process, and treat it as such.
Before we end, do you know, Paul? Do you know how much? Just check it out. Let's go in the supermarket, or just go into the gas station. Do you know the most expensive coolant in this country, in this hot country, is antifreeze coolant? You would think we don't need that. So you could pick up a bottle of antifreeze coolant because it's useless in Guyana. for a little $40, a big can for $40. It's $8,000 for the large bottle of antifreeze coolant in a hot country. That is what Guyanese people get on with. It's just sad. Antifreeze coolant. Your radiator never
Will freeze.
will freeze in Guyana.
I agree with you. I don't know why they keep bringing it here, but I guess that's part of it.
And I have a good friend named Dr. Marlon Cole, and we were chatting on the seawall last week, and I never thought of asking him why he did not ban that nonsense.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Antifreeze. And this is some of the
So
nonsense.
the minds are frozen. People who put antifreeze in their radiator, their minds are frozen. People buy birthday ice cream cake in this country, you know. Ice cream cake, you go to Massey, and it's the child's birthday, and they go on about ice cream cake.
What's wrong with that?
So they're driving. How? You know, this guy gets me now. You want to buy an ice cream cake. You want to buy an ice cream cake now, in the morning.
No, you didn't say that. You didn't
You
put
want
it
to buy
in
an ice cream.
context.
You want to buy an ice cream.
No,
wait.
why would you buy an ice cream cake?
The country is hot at 8
But
o'clock.
why did you put it in context?
The country is hot at 8 o'clock in the morning. And he's asking me why people buy ice cream cake. Oh my goodness. The country is hot at 8 o'clock. The ice cream cake.
Please put it
The
in
country
context.
is hot at 8 o'clock. When you buy the ice cream cake and you put it in that hot car that you're driving up Eastman, you're going to see the ice cream running all
Oh, you
over
just
your
say that, Freddie
pants.
Kissoon?
What? Did you know what I was getting at?
Ladies and gentlemen,
Time
that's
has
Freddie
come
Kissoon
up.
is
Time has come up.
And I think it's always getting at him. But tonight has been a very good night because we have from the horse's mouth about fitness. And it goes hand in hand with your health, mental health, physical fitness, everything. We have to lead a balanced life. And Paul Musa, I hope I pronounced it
Yes,
right,
Musa, yeah.
is somebody who would know. He's been doing it for years now. He's 39, and look at him. You can't just say that he's a lookalike of Andrew Russell, but he's also somebody who's been representing Guyana, who understand the linkage, the connections of eating well, of exercising, what it all means to your health, to your well-being, your physical well-being. So as we continue with our programs, we're going to bring these things to you. It's basically to tickle your minds, to make you start thinking in a different way as we continue to move this country forward. I would want to say good night to my co-host Freddie Kissoon. Of course, we missed on our other guest who was going to be here tonight, one of Guyana's powerlifting champion, female lady who could have been able to give us some insights. Unfortunately, she has her duties, and we're hoping to get her sometime or the other. But I would want to say thanks again to Paul, who's been doing fantastic work in the areas of training, in the areas of having his own gym. So wherever you are, ladies and gentlemen, good night. We're going to be back with you on Friday. Something to tickle your mind. Have a pleasant rest of the evening.